Welcome to Loving Me Before I Love You with Tammy Nicole, the podcast dedicated to you loving and putting yourself first. Others have come first in your life for years, and you know it's time for that to change. You're about to be empowered to set healthy boundaries, confidently have hard conversations, unapologetically put yourself first, and live the peaceful life you deserve. Remember, self-love is essential, and loving yourself sets the stage for every other love in your life. So get ready to embrace self-love like never before with your host, Coach Tammy Nicole.
Hey, welcome back to Loving Me Before I Love You. It is Transformation Tuesday. And as we have been in this month of December, the month of preparation and how are we going to prepare for the next year? I cannot believe we're about to enter into 2025. Like, that is like really mind blowing. This week, we're talking about relationships. How do you know if you are relationship ready? So a lot of us may have purged our relationships at the end of this year and like just did away with some people and, just I don't want to deal with them or they not meant for me. And here we are getting ready to go into 2025. And we want to know, am I ready for a relationship or do I need to sit this one out? What's going on within me that says, girl, go get him? Or, girl, that ain't it, honey. Well, today we actually have a returning guest. We have Miss Shira Renee with us, and we're going to talk about it. You know, she has her Blemish Beauty podcast where she's talking about all things relationships, all things women, all things everything, really, to be honest. She kind of does like what we do over here. Welcome back, Shira.
Hey, I'm excited. Thank you for having me again.
Welcome.
I'm excited.
Are you really?
Yeah. It's always fun talking to you.
Awesome.
Conversations.
That we do. So we gonna jump right in and we gonna talk to the people. We gonna see, are we ready? What does it mean to be relationship ready?
I think it is individual. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a relationship or you have a desire to get married, because some people date to marry, and then some people just dating just to sow their royal oats, just like they say on Coming to America. So it's individual. But if you're talking about a relationship, like something concrete, something that is not toxic,
like meaningful.
Yes, being relationship ready requires you to be, well, first you have to be solo ready. You have to do the work prior to being in a relationship. And you're ready to be in a relationship when you're comfortable being by yourself.
That's actually a really good statement right there, because I think a lot of times you have what I call serial daters, like people who jump from relationship to relationship to relationship looking for something. When I hear about those types of things, I immediately think that individual is an unhealed individual. Like they don't have, they can't be at peace alone. They feel like someone is a necessity for that other person to be there for whatever reason. It's like that just brings so many thoughts are like rushing through my mind when I hear that. Like a person is ready when they can be by themselves. I think sometimes a person being alone, if they're afraid to be by themselves, it could mean so many different things. Again, I still think it means that they're unhealed, like they have some childhood issues that are like sitting in the background, kind of like festering, brewing, they haven't touched it. And then on the flip side, because I can already hear, a counter argument, right? No, it don't mean that. They just like people, or, they just feel more comfortable being with other people. And I'm saying, well, but why? You were born alone. You're going to die alone. Why are you that comfortable?
Right.
So it's like you can hear them getting ready to say, that don't mean that they don't have that they have issues. They just like people.
Yeah, and I say that because there's parts of the relationship. I mean, you can't be up under your spouse 24/7. I mean, in the honeymoon stage, you would love to be. But once that blows over, it's like, okay, I need my space. Let me, do my thing. And then especially if you have something like this, like if you're a podcaster or you have your own individual hobbies or different things like that, that's when that whole being by yourself comes into play, because you really know how to navigate that detachment. When you don't know how to be by yourself, you start to become clingy, and it might turn the other person off because they might be a person who is comfortable being by themselves. So you really have to do the work, because it's not easy, especially if you're coming from a situation like that where you have to have a relationship every single time. But if you're a person that's like that, you're not giving yourself time to, one, grieve that previous relationship and find out the new things about you, because the person that you were going into that relationship, you surely are not leaving that relationship. You've gained some things, you've learned some things that you don't like about yourself, or you don't like at all. Maybe you used to have a favorite color, now you don't really like that color anymore, or you found some new hobbies that you like. Before you like flowers, now you're leaning more towards body sprays because maybe you're older. You might like perfumes more. So these are the things that you need to kind of reevaluate and get to know yourself after coming out of a relationship. That's why I say solo time is very, very important.
Yeah. And then there are things that you just don't want to take over to the next one, right? So you learned, like you said, you learned some things about yourself. You also learn some things that you don't like within a relationship, like the fundamentals of how it works. You may be a person who don't take direction well, right? You may have been with a man who was an alpha male who is very leadership quality and is like, hey, this is how this house is going to be ran. And, that rubbed you the wrong way. You want more partnership. You want something that you can have an equal voice in.
Right.
So you learn those things, but the attitude that you may have developed within that relationship with the dominant man, you may have had like a chip on your shoulder. You don't need to take that type of behavior into the new relationship that may have an equal level or equal playing field of communication and interaction. Right. You want to be able to not snap every time somebody says, hey, do this, or this is the way I want it. And they may not be saying it from a negative perspective, but you're triggered, right? So when you have to understand your triggers from every relationship, the things that made you mad in that relationship, you need to purge it out of your system and also create a list of non-negotiables for the next. But if you don't give yourself time and space to create that type of environment or those level of boundaries and things like that, then you will run into the same circumstances. And the next relationship won't last, but it's not going to just not last because of the person you're getting in to the relationship with. It's not going to last because of the baggage that you're bringing along with yourself. So it's like you do have to learn how to just get rid of that old person. And just remember, like every relationship that you get involved with, if that relationship has turned sexual, you're bringing along all of those things with you. You're not just bringing along the headaches, you bringing along some of the good stuff too, but that sexual soul tie is coming, all of that. Like you need to cleanse, and cleansing of yourself means get rid of those old habits, get rid of the things that you were doing that were repetitive within that relationship, and be ready to start anew, start something fresh. I always say date yourself during that solo time. Like really see like, what did I contribute to why that relationship didn't last? And could I have done better? What is it that I'm really seeking? Because a lot of us are just testing the waters. We're just like, oh, let me see what this one is like. Oh, he looked like he could do X, Y, and Z. Or, some of us are even treacherous enough to be following people and watching their previous relationships and saying, oh, I want all of that. And when he gets single, I'm going to jump into his DM. Like we doing some, and he ain't going to treat you the way he treated her because you ain't her. And
right, exactly. Different people pull different things out of you.
That part. People don't realize that you cultivate the relationship that you have yourself. It's not just about the other person that you're in the relationship with. Yeah.
And that's important too, because you have to know where you want to be in life. Like if you want to be the best line out right now in your soft girl era, then you need to be with someone who pulls that soft girl era out of you, who makes you feel comfortable in that space. Why would you want to be with someone who doesn't do nothing? So you have to tap into your masculinity. It makes no sense. So that's the purpose of having that solo time. So who do I want to be in this season right now? What space do I want to be in? And then once you are your true authentic self, you allow that energy to attract to you. Of course, you're going to have the other one just to test to see if you really are where you
who you say, right?
Yeah, you really want, like, you sure you done with the thugs? Okay, let me just
let me see. Let me send them.
Yeah, let me see, and I'm gonna make sure. But you really have to know who you are in this moment, who you want to become, and that means wonders. But you can't do that if you just jumping from relationship for relationship, because you're gonna always attach yourself to the person and who they want you to become.
When women say, or I've heard this so many different times, I even made a couple of posts recently where it's like you keep dating the same man with a different name, or you're dating the same man with a different face. I am a firm believer that who you date is a reflection of yourself.
Absolutely.
So if you don't like the reflection or the thing that is showing back at you, change it. You have the power to do so, right? Like that's you, like you showing up for, like, interacting with yourself. Like they're not different people. Like what you are getting from them is what you give to other people. So if you don't like what you're getting, change who the heck you are. And that may sound real harsh, and it may sound hard, like what they say, that's a tough pill to swallow. But if you ever just took the time to stand and look yourself in the mirror, you will see that the qualities that you keep fussing about from other people are the qualities you demonstrate. And you're getting them because you give them, period.
Or two, for me, I feel like with that, maybe it's a reality check that is something that you have to stop doing. Like if you're dating a narcissist,
you attracted it.
That means that you are a people pleaser. There's a light about you that they're attracted to, that they're trying to dim. So you are an enabler. Maybe you enable behavior. So with that, you have to do a self-evaluation and say, okay, what was it about me? Or you can even ask, because they love to talk about themselves so much. You could even ask them and they'll tell you flat out why they were attracted to you in the first place. And that might be something that you have to work on. Oh, you're super nice. Oh, okay. Well, let me stop.
I knew I could get everything I wanted from you.
Yeah, let me put my big girl panties on and toughen up, because obviously everybody sees me as a pushover. So let me show you I'm not that girl.
Right. And you can still be... Right. And you can still not be that girl and be be in your soft era.
Exactly.
Femininity does not mean just do me any old kind of way.
Right.
Femininity is the way you carry yourself. It is the way you come across. I can be feminine and strong. I don't have to be feminine and weak. And so being able to have that level of confidence and being able to walk upright and know what your boundaries are, know what your morals are, know what your values are, know what you will stand for and what you won't stand for, and what you tolerate and don't tolerate. Like all of those, that is actually walking in your feminine energy. it's not masculine to have boundaries.
Yeah.
Like feminine energy just simply means that I move with grace.
Absolutely.
That's that. Like if you wanted to put it in one statement, is I move with grace. Period.
If I could pick a person that would be the ultimate goal for femininity, it would be Claire Huxtable.
Mm-hmm.
Claire Huxtable is like, she's femininity at its core, but
she mean
Elton
business.
tried her, okay? You gonna get it, and you gonna get it in a nice, nasty way. But she was all feminine. Like it's not always the aesthetics. Like you don't have to have white toes and white fingernails, and your hair has to be in a bob or super cute.
Right.
To be considered femininity. It's like you said.
It's the energy.
Dude, is how you command a room. It is, all the things, knowing when to push and pull. Okay, yeah. In this space, I can sit down and I could just relax, let my man take care of this. Now, in this space, he might not be able to do it, but I can handle it and still make him feel like a man. Like, that's femininity, Like, yep. I just love it. I love it. I love being.
Yes, it's the energy behind it all. Yes. It's not just, it honestly makes me go back to back in the day. It's not about what you say, it's how you say it. And that's exactly, to me, what feminine energy is. It's like, it's not just what's happening, it's how it's happening. It's, what are you putting out there and what are you attracting when you put it there? A lot of time women who are leaders and boss entrepreneurs and business owners struggle in that area because they're always telling somebody what to do between 9 and 5. And then they go home and they still carry that same energy, but you got to know when to sit it down. So like, exactly. To me, a woman that operates in her feminine energy is able to tell the difference of when to pick it up, when to put it down, when she's to exude it and when she's not. And that happens because she's walking with grace. She's being able to assess the room and understand, like, even if you were heading into a business function, right, that you put on, it's a gala. It's Christmas time. Galas are happening, holiday galas are happening all the time, right? And it may be your company's gala and your husband is on your arm or your boyfriend is on your arm. Just because it's your function don't mean he should be looking like just the what they call it, the little carrot piece on the side. No, he can still exude that he's leading this relationship and he should know what's going on anyway.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like, it should not be like, oh, this is my thing, so he needs to sit back and take, a back seat. No, he could still walk in and look like he's running this show. Right. But we think sometimes, not all the time, that we have to exude, oh, this is my thing. Yeah. When in reality, it's an our thing if you really, work in it the right way.
It's either one or the other. They're either too masculine or just too feminine. It has to be.
They don't know the balance.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the balance is very important. But I honestly think that you find those things when you do that self-love journey, when you really figure out who you are, find your authentic, thread of life and figure out, like, you know what, this is where I fit. This is the desire that I have for my life. This is what I want. This is what I see. And this is what I'm going for. Carrie Turner, Dr. Carrie Turner, let's not forget her doctor, went viral for doing that live podcast with, was it Future Wifey podcast a few months back. It was earlier part in the year. And he did a live podcast down in Atlanta it was like a panel of people. A lot of your relationship gurus or self-proclaimed gurus were out. And she basically went viral for saying how she could be basically the man she's looking for, right? That he needed to be able to lead and provide and pull out of this. And And she was making statements like, if you give me something, I'm going to multiply it. Like, because that's what my role is. Like, but you can't come give me nothing, and you as a woman have to know what your power is. And your power is found when you know who you are, when you can love yourself in full totality, when you're taking care of yourself, when you are prepping for that relationship or that role. Like you said, if you want to be a wife, you should be a wife.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before that man finds you. You should not be becoming one after the fact.
That kills me, because the Bible clearly says he who findeth
a wife.
So that means that doesn't mean you're already married. That doesn't mean that you become that when you get a ring. That means you exude those characteristics of a wife. You can speak to him, you can cover him, you can cook, you can do whatever it is that you feel like a wife exudes. And he also believes in those same values, because you could be a wife, but you're not necessarily his wife.
Absolutely.
So not only can he find it a wife, but you have to make sure that the person who is finding that wife in you, you're also his wife, because you could be a wife. And then that's why it's a lot of divorces too, because we're wives, we're husbands, but we're not paired with the person that we're supposed to be paired with.
Yeah, the spiritual is not there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. I think a lot of times when we hear that phrase from the Bible, that he who findeth a wife findeth a good thing, that we immediately feel like just being found is it. Marriage is the starting point. It's not the end result. And if people ever remember or figure that part out, then things will be a lot different. It's where it starts. It's where the commitment really lies. Like, I'm not big on weddings. I had one. I understand, but I'm not big on them to be like, oh my God, let's just throw this lavish party, spend all of this money, X, Y, and Z, and then be divorced next year. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we have happening, because people are so focused on the wedding, and the marriage itself had no work. Yeah. COVID showed us that people were married to the wrong people. Yeah, but COVID showed us that people were married to the wrong people, because these people didn't even know each other. They were sitting in houses for a whole year and couldn't leave, and was miserable the entire time. Because they did not know who the heck they were married. When Risa Tisa came out with Who the F Did I Marry, a lot of folks had that title.
I was about to say, a lot of us could go viral with our stories, because she was just saying stuff that we deal with on a regular. She was just smart enough to do it first.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like, but we all have that. Like, if you don't get to know the person before you marry them, you're not really marrying for the right reasons, ultimately. And
knowing them is just not, what do you do? What's your favorite color? How many kids you want to have? Where you want to live? Knowing them means their nonverbals as well as their verbals.
Absolutely.
Knowing them means their characteristics. Like, are they a good human? Let's start with that. Like, do they treat the janitor with the same respect as the CEO? Like, these are the things that you need to know, because some of these characteristics may trickle down to your children if you decide to have kids.
Right.
So you might want to know that, as opposed to all the surface stuff that you can find out later. That means nothing.
That DNA is real.
Our values match.
Right.
And it ain't just the mother and the father that's coming.
It's the
together.
grandparents. It's the aunts, the great aunts, the uncles.
Oh man.
It's all of that and some.
Please.
But I always say that you should see a person in all 4 seasons of their life before you decide to stay with them forever. And those 4 seasons may not come in 2 months, and it may not come in 6, and it may not come in 12. You may need to really court and date a person for 2 full years. And some people will say, oh, it didn't even come in those 2 years. And I get it, but you should see them when they're mad. You should see them when they're sad. You should see them when they're happy. You should see them when they have nothing. And when I mean nothing, it's like when they are going through something that rocks them to their core. Yeah. You need to know, how do they handle adversity? Do you guys handle adversity the same way? How do they handle their finances? They could be rolling in a Mercedes and bankrupt. So you need to know what's really happening and how are their thought patterns. Like, I'm a firm believer in this portion of the word. It says, as a man thinketh, so is he. So the way you think matter more to me than what you have. Because if you don't know how to think through a problem, if you don't know how to think when it comes to someone being in sorrow, if you don't know how to think when things are like on the up and up, like, oh my goodness, you got a $40,000 check that you weren't expecting it. And if your thought pattern is, we blowing it, oh no, that's a good day. Have a good day. I'm gonna need you to be saying, we're gonna pay tithes out of this. We're gonna turn around and invest the other portion. Then we're gonna pay ourselves this. Like, I need to be knowing that you can think through the extras and the lack.
Yeah. And the family dynamic too. That's
how do you get along with your mama?
Yeah, that tells you a lot. Like if you're dating a woman and she has daddy issues, that tells you a lot. And a man who has mama issues.
I mean, daughters can have mother issues too.
Yeah. How they talk about their family, that tells you if they're healed or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And healed to some people can mean that they are functional, not angry, right? Like, just not angry about the situation.
Right.
While healed to others could mean they're happy about it, or they are, still dealing with their people. And forgiveness does not mean reconnection. So they can have had all these family issues all the time, and healing from those family issues just simply means I accept them for what they are. It no longer affects me in my way of making decisions. It no longer affects me. Like, I don't get emotionally triggered or jarred when this person's name is brought up, when the circumstances regarding that situation is brought up. I'm cool, calm, and collected. I can talk about it, or I may choose not to ever talk about it. However, I'm done with it. And I'm not triggered by it. That's what being healed means. It's like, it doesn't trigger me. It doesn't make me go left, right, or indifferent.
Right.
And I just feel like when people think that, oh, if I just avoid it, that means I'm healed. No, because if I can trigger you by it, that's evidence that it's not healed.
Right. Still lingering.
Still like.
It's pending.
Right. I remember, I can't remember what the circumstances were, but my uncle he's a preacher, and he would say, you over here telling me, oh, I'm abstaining from sexual sin. He said, you're not just abstaining. Ain't nobody tried you. Ain't nobody trying to get it. So that don't count. It only counts when you are actually being triggered, or you actually, interacting with the situation. Mm-hmm. So if you over here not being tested, they say a faith that cannot be tested is a faith that cannot be trusted. So if you got a trusted faith, that's a different story. But if you over here not being thrown into the waters or the rivers of crazy, I don't really know what to tell you.
Exactly.
Wow, today's episode is a good one. I know you're enjoying it, and we'll get back to it shortly. Just wanted to take a quick break to let you know that Tammy would love for you to share any questions, comments, or topic ideas you have with her. All you have to do is send them to her in an email to podcast@IamTammyNicole.com. Thank you, and without further ado, let's get back into today's show.
I just don't. I think that the other part to me that would tell me if you're ready for a healthy relationship would be communication. What do you think? How well you communicate?
How well you are willing to get to the bottom of the situation. Because a lot of people struggle with communication. A lot of communication is, some people believe, oh, well, in my family, we communicated this way. Just because you communicate that way, that doesn't mean it's a healthy way. Mm-hmm. So are you willing to get down to the bottom of it by any means necessary? What does that look like for you? Are you confrontational? No, we can't do that. Mm-hmm. But are you willing to comprehend what I'm saying? Can we agree to disagree? Because there's going to be a lot of things that you and I don't agree on. I love
Absolutely.
Amazon. You might not want me to shop at Amazon, but you understand that I love Amazon. So because you understand it, you will give me the grace to say, okay, you got this package. Let's just try not to do no more for the next 3 weeks, okay? Like, that's healthy communication as opposed to you ordered another one. It's kind of like what you said with, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
How you say it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you can attract more bees with, as they say, more
honey.
Bees with honey. Yeah, So it's like you bought another Amazon pack. So when you rile up, then the Jersey City and me rile up, and then we not going anywhere. But if you say, okay, babe, I understand you had to get that because you had a little extra money, but let's just try not to. I'll be more inclined to remember that next time I look at my card. Like, okay, babe, so we got stuff to do. Let me not just... I'll wait till next month.
Spend like so freely. Right. I get it. But I also think communication, like you said, we come from different cultural backgrounds. We come from, different family dynamics. And you're right. They may be used to yelling over there. But over here, I ain't used to that. And just being able to do conflict resolution from a neutral space of understanding. A lot of times we don't understand each other because we never get the time to hear each other. And because we don't hear and we're not listening and being an active listener, which means I'm not listening to respond, I'm listening to understand. And once I understand, if I don't, I'm going to ask clarifying questions. We don't do that typically. We just hear what we hear, we assume what we assume, and we react and respond accordingly. And those types of conversations or communication techniques are not healthy. They're not healthy for regular relationships, yet alone one that's romantically involved. I think that communication is the key.
One of the best things that I love about like therapy, especially with marriage counseling, they will, like, if you have a situation and one person is talking, they'll ask the spouse, so repeat what you heard. Because what you're saying and what I'm hearing
could be two different things.
And people don't realize that relationships are hard because you are taking one person, say my husband is 40 and I'm 40. You're taking your 40 years of what you've experienced and my 40 years of what I've experienced. We're putting this all on the table and we're creating our own thing.
Yeah.
You're not coming into what I've already created, and I'm not coming into what you've already created. We're trying to create something of our own. So our children have their thing that they've brought up into. But a lot of the times when we're in relationships, we try to bring that person into our space and then we get frustrated. No, y'all trying to build a space together. And that's where the communication comes in.
Absolutely. You have to be able to articulate your own needs. Period. You have to be able to articulate what your boundaries are. I think that when people are dating or when they first get into a relationship, the non-negotiables need to be put on the forefront in the beginning. The other part is having or stating non-negotiables, having or stating your boundaries means nothing if your behavior does not follow up behind it. So if you tell me that smoking is a non-negotiable, for you, and then we go out to a party together on a date, and people are in the room or maybe smoking a cigar or smoking cigarettes or whatever the heck they smoking, and you decide to partake on it, and I stay within that relationship, that boundary has been broken. And once you cross one boundary, you'll cross them all. So boundaries need to be able to be communicated clearly. However, they mean nothing if you don't follow up with the consequence that comes with it. And you need to know what the consequences are. You can't just set a boundary and say, oh yeah, I don't date smokers. Yeah, that's just not what I do. But we've been talking and dating for 6 months now, and all of a sudden I see you smoking. And I don't be like, oh, this relationship, yeah, it was 6 months, but it's over because I don't do smokers. I mean, I told you I didn't do smokers. You just now showing me that you smoke. So unfortunately, as much as I like you, care for you, at this point, I may even love you. It's been 6 months. I can no longer participate in this relationship.
Yeah.
Because you didn't even value me enough to even tell the truth. Because you knew you smoked 6 months ago. So I have to value myself more in that moment, because that should tell, oh, wow, you were able to lie about this for 6 months. What else are you lying about?
Yeah, exactly.
And as small as it may seem, because that's the first thing somebody gonna say, that's just, I mean, what's wrong? That they smoking it, they hurting their own self. They ain't smoking around you. No, I said I don't date smokers. It wasn't, I don't date smokers if they don't smoke around me. It wasn't, I don't date smokers as long as I don't see it. It wasn't, I don't date smokers as long as I don't smell it. No, it's, I don't date smokers, period. Yeah. So have a good day. I work on healing from the brokenheartedness because I thought this was going somewhere. I've been here for 6 months, but have a good day.
Yeah, because all he doing is making room for the person who don't smoke that you need to be with.
Right. Well, he's been occupying a spot for the last 6 months with his lie. That's what's really been happening, right? Yeah. Now, emotional intelligence. This has been a very, very hot, and I say hot, phrase going around in the relationship community. What does emotional intelligence mean to you, and how does someone gain it as they're trying to be ready for a relationship?
That is a tricky one. Emotional intelligence for me is basically knowing how to articulate your needs, like you said, and knowing when and where to do stuff. If you're in a situation, say you're out with your spouse and something happened to get you to a point of pistivity.
I thought I was the only one that said pistivity, baby. Go ahead.
You see, if you're in a situation where that happens, emotional intelligence for me is to know how to read the room and just say, you know what? Me and you gonna have a conversation when we finish here. Right now, we a united front, but I don't like what you did. Or even if it's in front of the kids, even if you're not out in front of the kids, just knowing when to express yourself and how to express yourself depending on where you are. And that requires work because, like I said earlier, a lot of different people pull different things out of you. Somebody might pull that girl out of you that just don't care. She just gonna shoot off at the mouth. And then some people will be like, okay, they get the calmer, timider version of you. But if you are who you are to your core, then you know, okay, this is what I bring to the table, because I love that conversation. What do you bring to the table? I bring emotional intelligence. I know when to say to you, I don't like something, how to. I'm not going to embarrass you. I'm going to respect you as the man. But if you disrespect me, you're going to get disrespected. Like our parents say, where you do it at, that's where you get it at. But I will respect you enough as a man to tell you, pull you to the side. We need to have a conversation. If you continue with the shenanigans, then I'm going to have to get at you. But at the same time, you know when and where. Again, with the femininity, it all kind of just balls into one big thing.
Yeah. Emotional intelligence for me also means just understanding emotions as a whole, right? Understanding your own emotional needs, understanding how you exude those emotions as well. Like if you have attachment issues and you have abandonment issues, knowing and recognizing that and being able to articulate that, hey, my dad wasn't really there for me when I was a kid. And so typically when he would say he's coming, he wouldn't show up. It makes me feel like I have to always check in. So
Yeah.
knowing that about yourself and being able to articulate that. So, hey, I'm not really checking for you. It's just a thing that I do until I can feel secure about the situation in that area. So being able to verbalize those needs, and that to me is emotional intelligence, knowing the space that you need, knowing how you fill a space. You walk into a room and it's a 4x4 room and you are a 6x6 girl. Emotionally, you don't fit there. Don't walk in.
Right.
Don't crowd the room. Wait outside, and that's what emotional intelligence means to me. It's just like knowing what it is. The other part of emotional intelligence is being able to receive the feedback from others and not always be so quick to be defensive. You have to know that you're not perfect. So you also have to know that if someone is offended by something you say, or they say something crazy to you in reference to how you show up, you have to be willing to be open to hear and then decide, is that really who I am? And then decide, how do I respond to that individual based upon what they said? Because it can always be a misunderstanding. But clarification, again, communication is the key to being able to show what emotional intelligence really is.
Absolutely. I agree.
Like, we got to know something somewhere, right? We can't just be willy-nilly in this life.
Yeah.
So now,
attachment styles isn't very important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But you got to know who you are. Again, it all results back to who are you? Right? Now, what are some strategies for maintaining relationship readiness even after you've entered a partnership? Like, you're in this relationship. Now, how do you stay ready? How do you stay in that space?
Whatever grounds you. Whether it's journaling, listening to music, for us podcasting.
Yeah.
Do whatever it is that grounds you, because you need that me time to kind of recalibrate. Just like your phone, when it gets to a certain percentage, it needs to be charged. So do you. You are not, like you said, perfect.
Correct.
And you do not run off of,
Fumes.
whatever you think you run off. You need to recharge. And that's why the Bible says to renew your mind daily, because it takes you renewing your mind daily. Today already brings enough worries. That's why you're not supposed to worry about anything prior or before.
Yeah.
Because today already brings its own stuff. So renew your mind, wake up, ground yourself. Even if you can't do it in the morning, ground yourself before you go to bed so you can sleep better. That's another reason why you're not supposed to go to bed angry, because you need to ground yourself and to be at peace when you are dealing with yourself and other people. If you're in a relationship with somebody, you don't know if it's something that they're going through on the outside. They could have had a bad day at work, but this is not who he typically is. If you've already grounded yourself and prepared yourself, you will come at it in a different way, as opposed to you already being hot and ready, and then you going to start arguing knowing that your man don't usually act like that. Something got to be wrong.
Correct.
It keeps your eyes more alert and more open when you ground yourself.
Absolutely. 100% agree. 100% agree. If you had to give 3 tips or 5 signs to women to say, you're ready for a relationship when 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what would those be?
You know you're ready for a relationship when you know yourself because you've had time to spend with yourself. You've had that solo season. You know you're ready for a relationship when you are able to affirm yourself. You like who you see in the mirror. Because a lot of the times when we're in a relationship and our husbands don't or spouses don't compliment us the way that we want to be complimented. That's why we have work husbands and work wives. Because they come in. But if you know who you are, if you affirm yourself, if you do like Mary J. Blige and say good morning, gorgeous to yourself, what he say on the outside can't shake you because you already know you got it. So you good. And you know you're ready for a relationship when you are willing to compromise. You have to be a team player, and you cannot be a team player if you're not willing to compromise. If you're not willing to stick something out for the long haul, that's if you have the intention to marry, of course. If you're not willing to do the work by any means necessary, then you're not willing to be in a relationship, because being in a relationship comes with taking on that person and all their baggage. Marriage, kids, whatever, that might not make them better. That might shift the relationship and make it worse because it'll add pressure to it. But if you guys are already committed to the goal, which is forever, all the other pressure, it won't matter. You just figure out how to navigate through.
Excellent. Well, ladies, if you don't have those tips, if you don't have those things listed, then you might want to reconsider. But you know what I'm going to say? If you haven't loved yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus, you're not ready. Because over here, that's what we do, because self-love is essential. Thanks for joining us. Come back next week for Transformation Tuesdays with Loving Me Before I Love You. I am your host, Coach Tammy Nicole. See you next week. Thanks for joining us.
That was awesome. I love
it. That's a wrap on another episode of Loving Me Before I Love You. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a second to show your support by subscribing and leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Stay connected with Tammy. Make sure you're following her on Instagram and TikTok at Coach Tammy Nicole. If you like to work with Tammy or have any questions you like her to answer, please head over to www.IamTammyNicole.com. Until next time, always remember to love yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus.